Shalom, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a live episode of Faith Walk, the intersection of life and faith. And our topic tonight is mental health and the Black community. Last week, we talked about mental health and the church, specifically the Black church, even though in heaven there is no black or white church, or in God's view there is no black or white church. It's just the church. But you know how we human beings do. We tend to be divisive in that way. But anyway, we talked about mental health in the Black church last week, and this week, mental health in the Black community. There are ties with both, obviously, because Black people go to church. So we're going to have some similar things that we're going to share tonight, Sandra and I, as well as some other things. So right off the bat, join the chat, and if you're watching, say hello so I can shout you out, because if you don't say hello, I don't know that you're watching. I want to shout you out, and I want to hear what you have to say. So it's not just about what I have to say or what Sandra has to say. It's an engagement. So please engage in the conversation with us. And by doing so, you will be writing in the chat your thoughts, your opinions, feelings about anything that we're saying, and also to your experiences, because we all have experiences and we can learn from one another, learn what not to do, and something to do because we've benefited from them. So please share in the chat and engage with us in the conversation. And right now, if you would take a moment to subscribe to the YouTube channel, if you're watching via YouTube, like the Facebook page if you're watching there, and like the video and share the video. So let me go to the chat and see who's first. Aisha, oh my gosh, honey bunches, Aisha beat you again. But Aisha only has two, but that's good though. She's catching up. But she has two young children too, so I have to give Aisha a break. But hello, Aisha and Honey Bunches. Miss you guys. Love you guys. Thank you for supporting the show every week and joining the chat and being one of the first to join the show every week. Your mom, Sandra, she's on standby. And I want you to know, Honey Bunches, that she did pretty good so far with getting herself set up for the show. We'll see when it's time to come on if she still has it set up. So we're going to see. Honey Bunches said, let's see, what does Honey Bunches says? I thought for sure I was first. Well, Aisha's name popped up first, so that's all I have to go with. Let's see. Well, you know what? Both say 804. I don't know what the seconds are, but 804, 804. So maybe, Aisha got a few seconds before. Hey, this is Honey Bunches says, and Aisha says, hello. Hey, hello. So you guys, again, like the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and like the video, and also share the video. We're talking tonight about mental health and the Black community. And this is Faith Walk, the intersection of life and faith. So this intersection tonight is our faith and the mental health of the Black community. How does our faith correspond with our mental health in the Black community? And so some of us have faith for our mental health. Some of us don't. Some of us are somewhere maybe in the middle, but we're going to talk about that tonight. So first off, one of the things that we talked about last week when we talked about the mental health and the Black church, and the church, specifically speaking of the Black church, is the stigma around mental health and therapy. So there's a stigma in the Black community. It has been for years, and it's still there, although it's gotten better. And that's one of the things that this platform does, this show does. We're destigmatizing mental health and destigmatizing therapy all the way around, but specifically tonight, talking about the Black community. So there has been many thoughts over the years, generations, with people in the Black community saying, I'm not crazy, I don't need therapy. When therapy has nothing to do with being crazy, life is just challenging sometimes, and we need someone who's objective, where it's going to be confidential, and someone who has the professional expertise to help you break down those thoughts and feelings that are typically attached to some trauma you may have had in your childhood or prior in life or recently. And knowing how to break that down so you can understand why you think and feel the way you do, and then therefore why you behave the way you do. There is a science to that. And then when we add on a Christian therapist, Holy Ghost filled specific therapist, where the Holy Spirit will give the therapist inside information that the client hasn't even shared. I know what happens with me. Sometimes I'm saying things and it's Holy Spirit led, it's not Sharon led, and it's touching the client right where they need to be touched, because Holy Spirit knows everything about the client. I don't. All I know is what they tell me. And sometimes they might tell me the truth. Sometimes they might tell me a lie. And sometimes I can discern the lie, just, work with them to be more honest. But Holy Spirit knows all. And so the best of both worlds, in my opinion, is a Holy Spirit filled Christian therapist who, and again, it doesn't mean you're going to, if you have a therapist as such, that therapist can only be Christians. I see people who are non-Christians. I see people who practice different religions. It's just that I have insight via Holy Spirit and many other things that Holy Spirit knows, that as far as what I can say, should say at any given moment to that particular person will touch them right where they need to be touched. So destigmatizing therapy in the Black community is huge. Like I said, we are far from where we were, but we have so much further to go. And again, it's not about being crazy. It's just life is challenging. And I want somebody who doesn't know me, who will keep my information confidential, who won't judge me, because therapy is the non-judgment zone. And when we talk to people we know, oftentimes they're judging us and they're sharing what they would have done in this situation when they don't even know, because they haven't had the situation. They're just guessing, right? Until you in the situation, you don't really know what you're going to do. You might think you know, but until you're faced with something, you don't know what you might do. And even with that, that's fine, but that's an opinion, right? So when you go to a therapist, you're getting expert, scientific advice or knowledge. I don't really want to say advice, knowledge on why it is that you're experiencing what you're experiencing based on what you've experienced previously. And that's why you're feeling that way. That's why you're thinking that way. That's why you're behaving that way. But there's something that we can do about it. We can unravel the trauma, the wound that's still there, that's creating these trauma responses because you're being triggered, right? We identify those triggers. And then we identify the trauma response and understanding the connection between the two. And ultimately, what is it rooted in? What was the original issue that caused this wound, this trauma? We trace it back to that original issue. And then when we heal that original issue, then it becomes a non-issue, because that original issue is what drove all of the thinking, all of the behavior, all of the feelings when you're triggered up to your present moment in life, because that trauma is still there. And oftentimes we don't understand in the Black community that emotional trauma is huge. Many of us have suffered emotional trauma growing up, unintentional emotional trauma, but emotional trauma nonetheless, because the words parents use or those who are raising us can cause children trauma. Right. And so if parents are using negative words or saying, you're going to be like so and so who's no good, you're going to, or just a name calling, a body shaming, all these different types of things, repeatedly hearing that causes a child trauma. Repeatedly hearing that causes an adult trauma. Right. So that's why we have to be careful of the words that we use. And living in situations for long periods of time also cause emotional trauma, such as living in poverty. That causes emotional trauma. Living with racism causes emotional trauma. So I say, as a professional, that Black Americans live trauma every day, whether we realize it or not, because there's not a day that goes by that our skin color does not proceed us in the eyes of other people. And therefore, then we are judged and treated a certain way if that person has the propensity to be racist. And so it's happening all the time in the workplace, in social situations, in common places where we go, such as the supermarket, the playground with the children, anywhere and everywhere, because we are a society full of different ethnicities and races. Racists, IST, not racist, as far as, well, still spell the same, but people who are different races is what I should have said. And so since we are a conglomerate of different people, we're going to run into those situations. And we can't help the color of our skin, just like no one else can help the color of their skin. But we're often judged by the color of our skin negatively, which then causes us to sometimes react in a way that's unhealthy, react in a way sometimes that is healthy, but a reaction or a response nonetheless. But then we take that home with us, right? And how do we sift through that? How do we reconcile how we are treated because of something that we cannot control? These are conversations that we need to have more of, as opposed to keeping it within, internalizing it, and then allowing it to fester to then come out in a negative way later. That's what happens to our mental health. So just not even talking about race issues, whatever trauma, emotional trauma we may have experienced before, we internalize it as opposed to going to therapy and letting it out and having a professional help us sift through how that can be talked about in a healthy, therapeutic way. So now I can heal. We internalize it. We don't talk about it. It comes out in depression, anxiety, other things, traumatic disorders. And now, when we're triggered, not even realizing oftentimes that we're triggered, we're responding out of that wound. And the other person might be looking at us, who may have triggered us unknowingly, like I just said XYZ, like, why are you tripping? And now because I've just become defensive and not even understanding that my defense is related back to that original trauma that happened when I was a child. And this is what you learn to do in therapy. You unravel it, and you unravel and you take that defense. Well, when was the first time that happened? Doesn't have the same person or a specific situation, but when did I feel like this? When did I feel like I was being berated? Or when did I feel, it could be something like someone said, just say a husband and wife situation. And the husband says, so when are you going to have dinner ready? Simple, easy, not meaning anything by it question. But then the wife could be triggered because maybe when she was growing up, she was parentified, maybe parents or whoever was raising her had an addiction, and or maybe the parent had a medical issue and they were an invalid and therefore could not parent the children in say the normal fashion because they're challenged medically. And so now the young person, then wife now in this scenario, had to cook the dinner, right, and help the kids with homework and all the type of stuff that parents do. And so one of them could have said to her all the time, well, when is dinner going to be ready? And so now that becomes a wound for that child. And so now when husband says it unintentionally, not meaning to cause any trouble, but for her, all she hears is mom saying that, or dad saying that, or younger brother or sister saying that, whoever said that. And now she comes back at the husband defensively. And he's like, whoa, I just asked, like, what's for dinner or when's dinner? And then now she's kind of going off, so to speak. Well, you could cook dinner yourself, or why you ask me that all the time? You know how it goes, how it can go, and not realizing this is a trauma response. And this is what therapy helps you to do: unravel that back to its original wound. And now we can heal that original wound that happened. So now when husband says it, the wife is no longer triggered. And also, too, by sharing with the husband, now he knows, okay, I'm not going to say certain things because I don't want to trigger my wife. Now that she knows, say she's going to therapy, she can let him know, hey, this is what I learned about myself in therapy. When you say this, I know you didn't mean it, but this is what's happening when I hear it. So he's like, okay, now he's gotten education, information, knowledge. So or if he does say it, he will say something like, okay, I'm about to ask you something. I'm prefacing it because I know it's a trigger for you, but I don't want it to be a trigger. So now she, in her mind, can brace herself like, okay, I know I'm about to hear something that's a potential trigger. So now she knows where to put it. So he asked that same question, when's dinner going to be ready? She's parsed that out, put the trigger over here. He's not hearing me. He's not doing anything. It's just a common question, right? But without having this knowledge, because going to therapy and healing, it's always going to be a defense response because you're being triggered. And I use always loosely, but typically. So this is, again, what therapy can help you do. Stuff that people who don't have this education don't know to do. And there's so more things and nuances that I can share, but that's, one example of being triggered, becoming defensive. Let's walk that back to why you're defensive. What emotion is attached to that incident that happened over and over and over again when someone asks you what was for dinner and you're just a kid. You got to make dinner because mom can't because she's got medical challenges, right? But you stepped up because that's just what we do. But we carry that with us. And now that person could be angry, could be resentful that I had to grow up too soon. I didn't have a childhood. I had to raise my siblings. I see it all the time in therapy. So many young people grew up parentified. And then they become adults and go to therapy and they're resentful about it because of the different situations that they grew up in. And so they feel like they didn't have a childhood and that they weren't able to be heard and that they were put upon, right? So there's a lot of feelings attached to that, a lot of emotions attached to that. And so, but what primary emotion is attached to that? And that's the feeling, the emotion rather, that needs to be healed. So the primary emotions are fear, shame, disgust, sadness, and joy. So we're going to leave joy out because people come to therapy for joy. So what is it attached to? Fear, shame, sadness, or disgust. Those are the four primary emotions of which all of our issues, every last one of them, only those four issues, a wound that we have, the emotion that is attached to it is one or multiples of that four, of those four. So if a person has trauma, you walk it back to the primary emotion. One or multiples of those four. The four again are shame, fear, disgust, and sadness. And joy is primary too, but again, you don't go to therapy for joy. So you're just going to put that one to the side. The other emotions are secondary, such as anger. Now, let me just say a caveat here. Anger can be a primary emotion, but truly just has to be anger. And a lot of times it's secondary because under anger is usually some form of hurt, right? Which will be fear, shame, disgust, or sadness, one of the four primaries, right? So when you think about even you just have a flashback yourself in a situation where you were angry, someone did something. Well, anger was the outward emotion that I experienced, but underneath it, I was really hurt. And then what is actually the primary emotion attached to that actual hurt, right? So primary emotions, secondary emotions. Our secondary emotions are the ones that we know that we're outwardly behaving, feeling, like this, and I know it. The primary emotions are the subconscious emotions that we don't know about. And therapy brings the subconscious to the conscious. So now I can heal it. Can't heal what you don't know. This is why therapy is so powerful. Just those nuggets that I just gave you right there can open up a world of healing for you. And for me, I'm human too, I have my own issues as well. But just knowing those few nuggets of what the primary emotions are, and just to look at my original wound and what feeling, emotion is it attached to? Is it attached to fear, shame, disgust, or sadness? Now I know what I need to heal from. Now, again, you still got to do more work, but that's huge right there because who knows that unless you go to therapy, right? So these are things that we in the Black community, now that's therapy for everyone. Speaking specifically about the Black community, why it is that there's such a stigma and why we fear it, because it's based on fear. It's all based on fear, that primary emotion, right? Because when we walk it back, right? And we hear some of the things like, well, I'm not going to tell a stranger, especially a white person. Let's just keep it real, right? Not that, a white person would do this, but this is our indoctrination into a Black American society, right? Being in America, right? Because we're in 100. So information was used against us historically. Right? So the more a person who might be racist knows about us, now I can use that against you. So now, why would I want to go to therapy when typically, as time was back then, most therapists were only white. Obviously, bring it up to today's time. Now we have multi-ethnic therapists, and so we have many to choose from. So we can move away from just going to one ethnicity of therapists and break that stigma. But then we still is like, I'm not crazy, I'm not going to therapy. And it's still a stranger, whether they're Black or not. And what's done in the house, said in the house, stays in the house. Okay, well, just stay sick then, because silence is sickness. And that is the motto, and what is the motto still for some, and was the motto for many of us in the Black community. What happens in the house stays in the house, and that's why the house stays sick. Just like in the word, it says when we put light on things, darkness has to leave, right? So you put no light on what's going on in the house, you stay sick, you stay in the dark. But when you go to therapy and shine some light, now at least that one person starts seeing the light and begins to get healed because now light has been brought in the situation. And hopefully, when that one person goes to therapy, they bring the light into the house and help others to heal just because they're different. And the others are saying that this person is different and they're liking what thing is like, I want that too. You can have it too. Just go to therapy, learning some of the same things that that person learned. So that's where we have to shake the tree, the family tree. Silence is sickness. And we don't want to be sick anymore in the Black community. We've made a lot of strides, a lot of inroads coming from slavery till now. We've got to make more inroads with our mental health and going to therapy because it is beneficial. It is about a fit as well. And you go to one therapist, not a fit, you go to someone else. You're not beholden to that particular therapist. Find one until you find a fit. And if you want to start with someone of your same race, ethnicity, there's plenty out there. But go and keep looking until you find one that's a fit. There is someone who is a fit for you. And I would say, as a believer, pray about it. Ask the Lord where to go or who to go to, and the Lord may direct you to someone who can give you a referral or who may know of someone who you can go to. So be in prayer about it. Let's stop wishing and just praying our mental health issues away. Prayer is good. Don't ever stop praying. But don't just pray, right? Because remember, the Bible talks about faith without works is dead. God has healing heals through counselors. That's why he created me to be a counselor. It's my calling. This is not just because I decided to be a counselor one day. This is my purpose, is what God called me to, and he put it in me. And that's why it's my passion. And it's not like work for me, because this is what he purposed in me to do when he created me. Just as he created you to do something as well. So there's many ways to be healed, not just miraculously because we pray and we ask God for a miracle in our mental health. Yes, God can absolutely do that. Anytime, anywhere, God can do anything he chooses to do. But he also works through people, and that's why he created doctors and counselors, etc. So don't shortchange yourself by thinking that it's only going to come one way. Your healing is only going to come one way. And that's just through prayer and miraculous means, supernatural means that God is going to do it. And again, he can, but that might not be the way for you. And if you've been this way for 25, 30, 40, 45, 5, 10, whatever year, maybe God's not going to do a miracle. Maybe he's putting people around you that you were ignoring because you're waiting for a miracle. So step out on faith and God will meet you there, right? Be inquisitive, inquire of him. Where should I go to get healing from? It's been too long. I need to get healing from my mental health. Where should I go? Listen intently. And maybe he will put someone, again, who knows someone or who can give you a referral, a list of people, or tell you a website to go to. There's many places to find someone, or you ask a friend, but be in prayer about it first and foremost. As a believer, that's always our first course of action, prayer. All right, so let me see if there's any comments because I have been on a roll. All right, so okay. So Aisha, Honey Bunches, Amira. Okay, so thank you guys for watching. If you say hello, I can know that you're actually watching and shout you out. But if you don't say hello, I don't know who's watching. So if you're watching and didn't say hello, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you and engage with the show. All right, so let me see here. Honey Bunches says, I thought for sure I was. Oh, okay. I had that one before. All right. Aisha says there's stiff. Wait, let me make this bigger. My eyes. I'm acting like I don't know. There's this stiff upper lip mentality in our community. It's gotten better, but of course, a long way to go. Absolutely. And Aisha, I'm sure you would agree with me. That's old school. That stiff upper lip. That's old school. It trickles down, but that's the old school mentality. Aisha also says, or judgment from people who haven't gone to therapy who think I've been through worse than that and look at me. You don't really need therapy. Oh gosh, how many times have I heard that? And I don't even know you, but sometimes I just, okay, are you really that good? Like when she says, look at me, but are you really that good? Because I question when people say that. Because the bottom line is we all have issues. And even the ones that think, yeah, I'm good. No, you're not. And I say this all the time. You have issues just like everyone else walking the earth. You just choose not to deal with them. And that's okay because that's your walk. But don't think you're greater than you are because you do have issues. So that's what I say. Amira says hi. Hi, Amira. Honey Bunches says that's good. I'm in therapy, but wasn't aware of the primary emotions. Yes, yes. So glad that you were able to get that information tonight, Honey Bunches. And Honey Bunches also says this all reminds me of the work I did with EMDR therapy, where I choose a specific emotion and trace it back to where it stemmed from. Now that was hard work. Yes, yes, yes. That's good work. That's good work, Honey Bunches. And who is this? Catherine Cruz says, hello. Hi, Catherine. How are you? Good to see you this evening or talk to you this evening via the chat. Hey, Shakina. Shakina says, hello, Sharon. Miss you, Shakina. Love you. Thanks for watching, Shakina. All right. So that's all the comments that are in the chat right now. So like the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel if that's how you're watching, and like the video, and please share the video because this information needs to get out there because we want to heal the Black community one episode at a time, and all communities. But tonight we're speaking about the Black community, one episode at a time. This is real, this is necessary, and it's one of our main issues in our community. When we see the gun violence, when we see, okay, let me just stop for 1 second. There's certain words, this is a caveat, there's certain words that YouTube and other social media platforms don't like you to say, and they will, I kind of thought it sort of shut your channel down or give you strikes and things of that nature. So I have to be careful, and my guests have to be careful what we say. And the thing is, they're common words that we say, but because of what's going on in the world, they don't know how you mean it. And it's just, I guess, like AI searching. So they see that word and not realizing it because it's a mental health show. So anyway, now back to why I've stumbled about saying what I'm about to say. When we have gun violence in the Black community, when we have put an M on the front of it, right? When we have ape, put an R in front of it, right? Those types of things, those things just don't happen. There's some mental health challenges that have gone unaddressed. And again, this is not just the Black community, that happens in every community. But I'm specifically just speaking about the community tonight because of the title of the show. But those are mental health challenges that have gone unaddressed. And so many other crimes that are committed, right? And so many other issues that we see in the workplace, in the home, in the community and other places that we see anger management issues and things of that nature. Those are unresolved wounds, typically of childhood. And when we don't acknowledge that, something is wrong with how I think sometimes, or also too, I'm always feeling, or I often feel this type of way that takes on a negative connotation with how you feel. We're all going to have moments of depression throughout life when things happen. So especially, when the death of a loved one, there's a time throughout those stages of grief where there's some depression, but then we recover from that. So it's situational depression. But then when it's clinical, more long and drawn out, then that's because of an issue, a wound. Right. And so there's levels and degrees to things. And when we experience these types of emotions for too long or prolonged period of time, that's a clue like, there's something else going on here. Or when a young person's behavior is just constantly, let's just say, negative, that's a cry for help, a cry for, I need some help. Now, the young person is not going to say that. They might not even know that. They just know that this is just how I'm living. and home life is jacked up in some kind of way. But when adults, when we see this, sometimes we just kind of write the kids off like, well, you shouldn't be doing it. But okay, he shouldn't, but there's a reason why. And we can always trace it back to the home life. Something was going on in that home. Children get the way they are because of the dynamic in the home. They're not raised on an island by themselves, raising themselves. There's a family dynamic that's happening. And each child is taking it on in some form, and then their behavior is reflected in it. And the ones that scream the loudest, so to speak, with their behaviors are the ones that may be doing stuff in the community of a negative sort, or the ones at home that get the attention. Oh, go to therapy because Johnny is X, Y, and Z. Well, okay, Johnny might be screaming the loudest with his behavior, but it's not just Johnny. There's something going on at home that created this behavior in Johnny. And so we have to stop thinking about it. It's just the kid, something's wrong with the kid. No, it's the family dynamic. The whole family needs therapy. Parents need therapy because parents are the ones who are in charge of whoever's raising the children, right? Your parenting is affecting how your children behave, how your children think, how they emote. And that's why your children get the way they are, because of how parents parenting. And I'm not blaming parents for being doing, not parenting well. But what I am saying is an imperfect parent can't raise a perfect child. And a parent's trauma will rub off on their children because they're unhealed. So you have unhealed parents are going to raise unhealed children or pass on their trauma to their children, because it can't happen any other way, because you're constantly being triggered. And when you're triggered, now I'm going to trigger by your child unintentionally, unknowingly, like the other example that I gave. Well, now I'm going to have a trauma response. I don't even know this is happening. This is what you go to therapy to learn about. But now that trauma response, responding to that kid with some sort of negativity, some sort of consequences, some sort of punishment, some sort of something, yelling, screaming, whatever. Punishment a lot of times don't even fit the crime of what the child did. I'm calling what the child did, whatever the negative, I said a crime, but whatever negative thing the child did, the punishment doesn't even fit, because you know what? It's my trauma. It's not even about what the child did. But I don't even know this. My frustration is just rising because the kid won't do what I asked the kid to do. Well, he's a kid. Sometimes you got to ask 4 or 5 times. But old school is like, no, I asked you the first time, you need to do it. Well, you know what? This is not then. This is now. And we have to do things differently. And we have to be the example that we want to see in the children. No more hypocritical parenting like back in the day. Do as I say, not as I do. Be seen and not heard. That's over. We have to learn to be more sensitive to what's going on with our children and be more sensitive to ourselves. Parents have to be sensitive to their own self. Okay, what's going on me as a parent? What's going on with me right now? I'm feeling frustrated. My child is doing X, Y, and Z. Why am I frustrated? Am I really frustrated at that? Or am I frustrated with something that happened at work? And now I got double frustration. So I'm going to give my child the double frustration when he only deserves the one frustration, say, so to speak. But now he's getting that plus whatever a work, and maybe that work thing triggered something else. And now just getting all of my frustration. Little Johnny is. It's not fair. It's not, he doesn't deserve that. But when a parent doesn't know themselves, this is what they do. This is what you do in therapy. You get to know yourself so you can respond rather than react. Two different things. Reaction is purely emotional and it's usually not good. A response is, let me deal with myself first. So now when I go deal with Johnny or whomever, now I'm making a sound decision with what I'm saying or what I'm doing with this person that's just triggered me or just done something that I don't like. That's what therapy helps you to do as well. I mean, there's just so many things I can go on and on and on that we need to hone in on to be better in the Black community, so we can then raise our children better. And then we wouldn't see what's going on as much in our community with our young people. You turn on the news, all you see is all those things that I just mentioned earlier that they don't like the words to be said, right? And it's just so much violence. Let's just put that as the umbrella. That some of this can be helped if we were to get families and counseling, if parents were to go to counseling, right? Because when the parents are better, the children are better, right? When the parents are coming from a healed place, now they can parent children out of a healed place rather than an unhealed place. All right, I'm going to bring Sandra up in a second. She's been waiting so patiently. But let me dig to these two comments. This comment is Amira Lee said, "Your silence will not protect you." Audrey Lord. Yes, 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 yes. Gwendolyn says, Gwendolyn Dean, hey family. Hi, Gwen. How are you? And now I'm going to bring Sandra up to my co host to join the conversation. And again, please like the video if you're watching via Facebook. And if you're watching via YouTube, subscribe to the channel. It's free. Just take a second right now and look for the thumbs up and like the video. It helps the algorithm for Facebook and YouTube to push these videos out to other people who aren't subscribed to my channel to their feed. And so it helps that, and as well as helps me to be on longer because people like the video. So like, subscribe, and share the video. All right, Sandra Lee, here you are. How are you, Sandra?
I am doing just fine. I'm doing just fine, enjoying you going over these things that you're talking about. And I'm learning. Anytime I'm around you, Sharon, you know I'm always learning.
Yes, you are. You are open to learning. That's one of the things that I love so much about you.
Yes.
So, Sandra, you have four girls,
Yes, I do.
and you have opened yourself up on this platform, talking about your experience of what you have learned from your girls, now women, about how some of the things that happened with them when they were children, and how now you're receiving feedback from them and learning about how your parenting affected them then and now. So you've been open about that. And I appreciate that about you, because I believe one of the issues is parents often aren't open. Black parents, we're speaking about the Black community tonight, aren't
Right.
open to therapy. They just think, let's let child go to therapy, fix them. And it's not even about fixing, but that's the word. And everything will be fine. But that's not how it works. As I said
Right.
earlier, I'm not going to go into that diatribe again. The family needs therapy. The family needs to hear
Right.
and understand things about themselves. And so parents are should be the first partakers, because they're the ones who are raising the children.
Exactly.
Right. So Sandra, I don't know if you, with some of the things that I've said, if you want to elaborate on something specific, or just have a comment.
Well, one thing I would say, Sharon, is when you're talking about, raising your children and how you say certain things and you don't realize what you're saying, the name calling, whatever, it reminded me of this. And I thought about whether or not I could share it or not, but I'm going to share it. When one of my nieces were born, and you know how when children are born, you name them funny little names, you may call them Pudgy, or and as a baby, you think it's really cute. Well, one of my oldest nieces, when she was born, it seemed like when she would cry, her mouth kind of opened up wide, kind of. And in my mind, I used to like to look at National Geographic, right? And and it reminded me of the mouth of a snake, like because it would just open up like a cottonmouth snake, right? Now,
Right.
why I thought that was a good thing to share, I don't know, but I said, "Oh my goodness, look at the cottonmouth, cottonmouth," and so when I would see her, I would say, "Oh, look at the little baby, look cottonmouth, cottonmouth." And in my opinion, I thought that was cute. It wasn't until like years later, not a lot of years later, because I didn't do it until she was like 5 or 6. She may have been like 2 or 3. I'm not quite sure because I wouldn't see her all the time because she lives out of state. But I remember one time my sister told me, she said, Sandra, I don't think you need to be calling her Cottonmouth anymore. I said, why? She said, because she saw a picture of a cottonmouth snake. And she said, why does Aunt Sandra call me Cottonmouth? Snake. Do I look like that? And then, of course, my sister's like, oh, no, and so she's trying to come up with a reason why I would say that. And she said, oh, and he said, oh, well, just like how the little snake mouth is cute. Well, a snake mouth is not cute. So that is just one of the things that popped in my head. And so when we are saying things to people, that the little
Mm-hmm.
children, oh, you look like a little giraffe. Oh, you look like a little bear. Those words, you don't mean for them to come out like that. But what happens is, if the child is going, well, Why did you say I look like a pudgy bear? And everybody calls me Pudgy. And then you go through life with this name Pudgy. And then what you
Right.
don't realize is that you are literally setting this person up and taking away their esteem. You don't know that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's not until maybe that person gets into therapy that they find out, the reason why they have low self-esteem because they grew up being pudgy or they grew up being these different names that Black people love to call their children, right? We make up some
Yeah.
names. That's what I thought about when you first was talking about it. And then I know, I think Ayana commented on training that she had learned in therapy, right? And she's the one that I always talk about because she has been the key trainer, okay, of training me how to be a better mother, I will say, and
Hmm.
actually revealing to me some things that I didn't even know. Case in point, I may have shared this before, but if I did, I apologize. But I remember when she said to me, "Mommy, you were never at home," and I looked at her like, "You couldn't be talking about me, because I have always been at home." No, Mommy, you weren't at home. You were never at home. But now I worked two jobs. Actually, I worked one at the job I'm at now. It's 21 years. The job I just left, I was there for 15 years. So when she said to me, "Mommy, you were never home," even though work was something that I needed, it didn't matter. I wasn't there, right?
Right.
But here I was thinking, oh, my girls think I'm just the greatest thing in the world, and I'm not saying they think I'm horrible, but I wasn't as great as I thought I was. But
Right.
it me knowing about therapy, knowing about change. And the bottom line is all of this is to make a better you. It's not to
Yes.
ever take you into another place where you're not going to get better. So
Right.
though when she said those words, it stung me like, oh, it hurt me to hear her say that. And
Hmm.
then the other things that she shared, as a matter of fact, all my girls have shared. I took the licks, man, but I had to say, okay, in order for me to be better, and then sometimes you have to apologize because you didn't know, but even though you didn't know, you still owe an apology, right?
Right.
And then
Right.
sometimes people are like, I ain't gonna apologize for that. I didn't know. Doesn't matter if you knew. If you hurt your children, you hurt a person, whoever, whatever the case may be, you still owe them apology. And
Exactly.
because the thing of it is, it's still something that festers, right?
Right. We don't need to be too prideful and not
It,
apologize.
exactly. And you know what he said about pride?
Yes.
It comes
Goes before
before
the
a fall.
fall, right? That's
But
right.
that's what he said. That's what he said.
Hmm.
So the thing about therapy and the Black community, like we've said before, it has always just been looked at as something that white people did, right?
Right.
Now, that was more or less then. Now, almost everybody's in therapy, or at least a lot of people are in therapy, right?
Hmm.
But what happens is when you go to therapy, you don't just sit on a couch or sit on somewhere or be what, and they just get some information and you just, okay, I'm fine now. I went to 2 sessions, I'm good. There is work
Right. No,
because you got to break that onion up, okay?
that's
You got
right.
to peel
You
that
got to
onion.
unwrap, peel that thing back.
Okay, peel it back. It is work because, you know, with Ayana, she shared she was in therapy. Some days when I would come home, I knew she had therapy because she was treating me a little nasty. She just say stuff. She would just kind of be quiet, right? And I'm like, ooh,
Hmm.
this must have been one of those revealing things, or maybe it was something that she shared that kind of made something come up in her. So I was
Hmm.
like, okay. And so, like I said before, therapy is something that is not just for a person that's sick and terribly great. We all got something. We all
Right.
got something that we're dealing with. It is
That's
just a
right.
matter of like talking about it, breaking it down, and then being able to be a better you, right? Because
That's
you know
right.
how many people walk around nasty for no reason,
Right.
just for no
That's
reason.
an issue. So there's
It's
a reason why they're nasty,
there's a reason. It just
right?
don't
They
seem
might not
like
even realize it, but there's
it
a
don't seem
reason
like
because that's not normal behavior.
exactly. And so I've been, working in so many different places. When I worked back home in Greensboro, I worked at American Express, and I'm not going to call no names, of course, but I worked with some people that just was nasty for no reason. I just couldn't understand. You a Southerner. I thought Southerners are sweet. But this person was nasty for no reason. But you know how people always come to me. and talk to me. I guess you could say I'm the community therapist because I don't care where I go. I can't really get away from, I guess it's a calling. People are drawn to me, and
Right.
they will, strangers off the street will share innermost secrets, right? And so when I got to know the person and understand, and know some of the life history about the person, I understood why they were so angry. But
Mm-hmm.
they needed to go to therapy in
Right.
order to work those things through. And you know what's so funny? When I suggested that, you must be kidding. I'm not going up there. It's white people. And in the
Mm-hmm.
bathroom, in the ladies' bathroom, on the wall, it was a number. It said, if you're feeling depressed, if you are anxious, if you are drinking too much or smoking too much, companies wanted you to go to therapy. They had
Mm-hmm.
all call this number. It will be a private, of course. They wanted that because guess what? It's difficult to work when you jacked up.
That's right. You'll be a better employee if you go to therapy because you won't be bringing in all that mess, right? That you're bringing in from an unhealed
Exactly.
place. And you say you won't be calling out as much, so you affect the bottom line when your behavior is as such, right? So when
Exactly.
employers would benefit from their employees going to counseling and paying for it.
Exactly. So listen, so this person didn't go to therapy, they just kept on coming and talking to me. So
Hmm.
but it is
Well, at least
definitely
they got something, right?
exactly, exactly.
But the message is go to therapy. So
The message
Amira
was
put up here a comment when you were talking about calling your niece, I think you said cottonmouth. She says, I have to agree, it's not a compliment at all. LOL.
right,
Um,
right.
and Sharon, hey Sharon, miss you, love you, Sharon. Sharon Bowen Montgomery says, yes, it's
Hey,
not who's
Sharon.
right, but what's right.
That's Sharon.
Exactly. That is the truth of all truths. Facts,
That's
facts,
my
facts,
favorite
facts,
thing
facts.
to say.
Right. It's not who's right, it's what's right. Sometimes you got to take one for the team, right?
Oh,
Especially in families, especially in a couple relationship. I might be dead right, but you know what? What's right to do in this moment is not about me being right, right?
right,
I need to do
right.
what's right in this moment. So I'm going to share this with you, and this is probably going to ruffle some feathers. Well, before I get to that, let me show this last comment. Amir says, I always quote Sharon Ball Montgomery. I love that quote. Yeah, I say that quote all the time as well. Let me share this with you. And again, it might ruffle some feathers, but I'm the feather ruffler, and that's okay. This is something that we do in the Black community. I'm not saying we invented it, but we're very good at it. And other, say, cultures have picked it up, because a lot of what we do, people pick up and, take to it because, Black people are a vibe, right?
We the whole time.
Right. So, but here's the thing. This is something we do all the time, and I dare say most of us, if not most, many. The say I don't know what they call it today, but the old school version wording is playing the dozens, right?
Okay.
You heard of that when you basically talk about each other to your face, calling each
Right,
other names, your mama this, your mama that, or
right,
you
right.
say this, you so that. But when we put that down, is that really a good thing to do? Because
No.
we are sitting here to this person saying the most negative things that we can think to say about them for a laugh. It's all in the face of humor,
Right.
right? But we also too know, well, if you don't know, humor is a defense mechanism, right? Now that's a therapy thing that many people don't know. There's many defenses, denial, a whole bunch of things. Humor is one. Now I'm not saying humor is not a defense mechanism every time, but
Right.
humor can be a defense mechanism. So, all in the name of humor, we're tearing down people, their families, their communities, all in the name of getting a laugh. That's not healthy. So, I'm sitting here, you and I are playing the dozen Sandra. I'm saying, Sandra, you must so this, da 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 da, and everybody around laughing, da da da. But, sometimes we're saying things that are factual, but that don't mean I want you to say it.
Right.
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 And sometimes we're saying things that aren't factual, but still it's just like, no, my mama not that. Why whatever. It's just not good. And so when
Right.
we think about it from a healthy versus unhealthy perspective, an emotional abuse perspective, rather than comedy, This is really not something that's good. And I often see people in therapy who talk about um, people who have done that, Black people who have done that throughout years in their life, and they didn't like it. But here's the thing, you can't say you don't like it because it's so ingrained in our culture. Because then when you say, well, don't say that about me, or that hurt my feelings, God forbid we say our feelings are hurt, right? If we say that out loud, oh, then roasting even more. Like, oh, you're
Right.
such a wuss, or
Right.
of this or that. You can't say,
Right.
especially when guys, because a lot of guys tend, not that women don't do it, but guys tend to do more, I believe. So you imagine, guys playing the dozens, and one of the guys said, "Wow, that really hurt my feelings." Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? They would be roasted even more. But it's like, what are
Right.
we doing to each other? We're really tearing each other down in the name of humor. And then some people are really like, it's hurting them emotionally, but they can't say it because then they'll be ridiculed for that.
Yeah.
And so that's, I don't know if any people in the audience agree with me or not, and that's okay if you don't, or who have participated in this, or know people who have. But I challenge people. I've said this to you before. Is this what we really want to do? Really think about what you're saying to this person.
Right.
That's really abusive when you think about it. And I know we don't, that's not what our intent is, but we have to look at what we're doing. And this is one of the things that I like to stress, when we're on the show and other shows, and anywhere. We have to be intentional. I need to think about what I'm about to say out of my mouth and the effect that it's going to have on the other person that I'm saying it to. And if it's going to have a negative effect, I don't need to say it. Now, that doesn't mean I don't need to be honest, because we can be honest in love, right? With love. But if I'm being honest, well, I'm not playing the dozens, because that's hurtful, or can be hurtful. And even ones who aren't saying that it's hurtful, you know, I think there's some pride still standing in the way, because when they think about it, some of it is stinging, rather
Yes.
whether they say it or not. Right? We're human. And so I think that's one of the things that we really need to stop doing. Will we? Probably not. But it really needs to be, taken a look at, because again, I've had people in therapy talk about how it was hurtful for them, but they couldn't say it because they would be ridiculed even more, called a punk and called all this other kind of stuff. And it's just, but it was hurtful, and I could see.
Right.
You have any
Right.
thoughts on that? Cheryl, well, before Sonia, you say anything, Shakina says, back in the day, a lot fights broke out among friends, but you were able to piece it back together. Yeah, the days of fighting are over. Now it's just pull out the gun, and I'm gonna shoot you and unalive
Exactly.
you, and say on on YouTube, so we don't get the channel taken back. Unalive you, which is, I think, is hilarious. But absolutely, back in the day, you would fight it out and then go about your business. Those days
Right.
are over. Shakina says that she agrees, I guess, with the roasting. I can't think of the word that it's called, but anyway, what are your thoughts, Sandra?
Well, now this is kind of a slippery slope for me because I am a comedian basically. I'm funny all the time, most of the time, and I know that I have been guilty. So let's put them up. I mean, I tell you, I always confess my stuff, don't I? Uh,
Yes, you do.
my girls have even said to me sometimes, "Mommy, why did you say that? That wasn't nice." Because
Hmm.
I said something, I'll say something, I bust out laughing, but then I notice they ain't
Right.
laughing. And I'm like, uh, I know you lying. That was good. They're like, no, mommy, don't. That wasn't good. Now, I'm gonna share this right
Okay.
now. Back in the day, if your mama felt like you needed to have on a girdle, right?
Mhm.
She would say you need to have on a girdle because you jiggling too much and it's too much working going on. It's too much. Put a girdle on, right? Put on a girdle and put on a slip. That's what she told me. Put on a girdle slip. But nowadays, because of the whole body shaming thing, you have to walk on eggshells when you're
Hmm.
telling people that maybe if they try this, this may look better on them.
Right.
And I know Ayana's going to be mad at me, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I said to her, "Oh, Yana, you need to put on like a girdle thing, and that way you can hold your stomach in." Body shaming. That I hear body shaming, I really want to scream because I'm like, I'm not body shaming. I don't look at it like I'm just simply saying that if you want your stomach to be a little flatter, and I'm thinking I'm giving you good advice, but even with that, you have to be careful because where
Right.
you're saying one thing because of the fact that people's esteem has been so tore down, there is a
Mm-hmm.
big conscious effort of making sure you talk and you uplift a person, and don't do body shaming and what have you. But I
Right.
didn't really think it was being body shaming. I'm just saying, if you want a little enhancement, I mean, if you want something to help with this, stomach is smashing down, you can get this girdle. But what I understand is maybe that, in her opinion, seemed like body shaming. So
Mm-hmm.
everything you say, you have to be mindful. But when you talk about saying stuff about people, and I've been guilty. I've been guilty of saying some
Mm-hmm.
funny stuff, and everybody laughing. We all laughing together. But like you said, you don't know that it's hurtful until you know.
Exactly.
You know.
Right.
Oh yeah. Then read that. Amira says, "I'm
Sandra, yeah,
trying."
Mira said Sandra often trying to play me.
And see, Amira, Lord of mercy, she always would say, "Mama, you trying to play me? How am I trying to play you?"
And Honey
Which
just says me too.
is, oh Lord, here's my girls. They're coming out now. They're coming out. I got to back away.
All
Now,
right. So that Amira
hey,
says, I think it's less to do with esteem and more to do with giving people unsolicited advice. Ooh, is that
uh,
a slice and
ooh,
dice right there?
stab.
Yikes.
I told you, man, they know some stuff to say. But you know what? And
I
I
love
and
your
I
girls. They know how to say it, don't they?
hey, I'm opened up
Woo.
to it, right, right, right. But
Right,
yeah, I've
right,
been told that. I've been told
right,
that I didn't really understand. Like, what do you mean? I'm not trying to play you. Yes, mommy, when you said that, you were saying it for a laugh, but it made me feel a certain way. You like
right,
you were saying something like, I'm just gonna use it. Oh, like, just shut up, cheese.
right, right,
Even though we all laughing because I said shut up, cheese, and they sitting over here looking like you just hurt my feelings. But we all are laughing. I
hmm,
don't know about it, right? Until I know
right,
about
right,
it. And so even with different things that you say to your children, they then will come back with, that wasn't really
hmm,
good, you know.
right. Shakina says, we live in a sensitive world. You're almost afraid to say anything to people anymore. People are always angry. Yeah, we do live in a much more sensitive world than we used
Yeah,
to. And, we also too live in the mental health age, and people are understanding that their voices matter, their thoughts, opinions, and feelings matter, and they can share them. Right. And just like what was it? Amira who said it's can be unsolicited advice. So if I wanted your opinion, I would ask for your opinion. So if I don't ask, you shouldn't
right.
share. Or you can ask me if you can share. And if I say no, then don't
Uh-huh.
share it. Or if I say yes, then share it. So questions
Mhm.
always go further than statements because statements sound judgy. So
Oh,
ask
okay.
before you share, Sandra. As one of your girls, is it okay if I give you some suggestion about your outfit? And if they say no, then don't give it. Just suck it up and don't give it. So now you don't get in the hot seat with them because you didn't give it unsolicited and you
Right.
asked the person if they said no. So it's like, okay, no harm, no foul. But if they say yes, then you get to say what you want to say and they still can take the advice or not because it's up to
Can-
them. So don't get mad if they don't take the advice,
Right. Well,
right?
Sharon, can I share right quick about Sunday and what you
Yes.
told me in church Sunday about my hair? Uh, can I share that, please? It was unsolicited, but I took it. Now, I was having hair issues, so I cut my bangs 2 days ago. Just stood in the mirror, just said, "I'm cutting these bangs. I'm sick of this hair." On Sunday, I said I want to do something different with my hair, so I combed all of my hair to the front, and I was trying to come up with these bangs, right? But my hair was all the way down to here, so it was going to be kind of crazy. We were on our way trying to hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. So I did what you call just kind of flipped it. Well, when I went outside, the weather and the gray did something, and my hair just looked like two pieces of wood on the side. Well, I don't know that because I'm dressed to kill. I got on a beautiful suit, looking gorgeous. Ayana said, "Mommy, your hair looks no, it looks terrible." So I said, it looks fine. It looks fine because it did look better when I walked out. But by the time I got to church, something else happened. I guess just the air or whatever. So Sharon, I just want to say, I went over to Sharon at the end of the, so hey Sharon, how you doing? Blah blah blah. She said, Sandra, let me just say this. Even though a lot of times you have hairstyles that you don't like personally, but I like, and if I'm saying this, it must be different. She said, that hairstyle today, mm-mm, mm-mm. That's no, that right there, that's not a good one. So
Right. I
I don't
remember.
really like those pieces of wood. So then I said, oh, okay, I received it. 2 days later, I took some scissors and I cut it. And so now I got a cute little style on the side.
Right, right.
But
But
anyway,
see, Sandra, I
so
know you can handle the constructive feedback because I know our
exactly.
relationship, right?
That's
So,
exactly right. I wasn't mad.
and,
I
and
just,
we
I was
laughed about it because it was funny, but I get it. It was totally unsolicited, but we tell each other unsolicited stuff all the time. But that's when you have to know
yeah,
your audience. Right?
exactly.
You have to know and sometimes even when you know your audience, you still might probably need to check yourself. So when I say you, I'm talking about all of us, and me
Right,
too.
right, right.
So in that moment, because that doesn't happen that often, because I usually
No.
like your hairstyle, but that moment it was like, don't do that again. Right. So
Oh my God. And that style you will never see again.
right. Okay, let's get to these last few comments because it's after 9 and you are late for your prayer call. Okay, old school always gives unsolicited advice. Gwendolyn, you have not said nothing but a word right there. My mom, and I'm surprised she's not on
Oh
here.
my
She's probably
goodness.
having trouble. Unsolicited advice 24/7, 365. To you, Sandra, to me, to everybody. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. That's just the old school way, right? But so true. And
Oh,
Shakina says yes. And Sharon says, what's that? I don't know what
Samuel. I can't,
SUMA. Samurais. I don't know, Sharon, what that is.
or
Looks like
maybe she's talking about
AIS.
the way my hair was
So,
looking. Maybe.
oh, I don't know, maybe. But so we're going to end the show here. Thank you so much for all of your feedback and comments and what you shared, Sandra. I appreciate you. And thank you everyone for watching. Gwen, Chiquina, and Sandra, Sharon, excuse me. Two Sharons and a Sandra. This was in my
That's what we
mind, right?
always say. That's right.
Sharon, Chiquina, Amira, Aisha, and Ayana, Honey Bunches. And I think that's everybody. Oh, yeah. And Catherine, thank you all for so much for watching and supporting the show as you do. And, Sandra and I, we love coming to you, bringing you the show and bringing you this information. Because, again, we're growing, a community and a movement one show at a time. So share this video with others so they can get on board as well. And before we end, please like the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and again, like and share the video. And we will be live again next Wednesday at 8 p.m. with another live episode of Faith Walk, the intersection of life and faith. And until then, we love you. Good night. Have a God evening and have a God week. Shalom.
All right. See you next week.